Hey guys, I'm Travis from Shop Nation, and I'm excited to be partnering with Kreg here on their YouTube channel to show you how to make a workshop staple, the clamp rack. Oh, and the best part is that there's free plans for this. You can find those at kregtool.com or link down in the video description below. And by the way, free plans are kind of Kreg's thing, so if you want more of that, be sure to hit subscribe to their YouTube channel. Now, whether you're new to woodworking or you're a seasoned pro, chances are you've accumulated a good number of clamps. And you may be surprised to find out just how many after you've went and dug them out of every nook and cranny in your shop. And if you're the average woodworker who just accumulates stuff over time, chances are also high that you've got a mixed bag of clamps. But for this project, I'm just gonna focus on the long ones that are kinda tough to store. Now, on top of the fact that a little organization is good for the soul, I'm a big believer in being intentional in your shop. So having a spot for all of your large clamps to live means you ultimately spend less time searching and more time building. The problem, however, with clamps like this is that, well, they're big and they take up a lot of valuable wall space in your shop. And one trick that I like to use is to look up. Now, the reality is that the upper portions of your walls in your shop are really not that useful for everyday items, which makes it a perfect place for a clamp rack featuring very large clamps. And this area on the upper part of the wall, sort of against where the garage door rail is, I think is a perfect spot to utilize for this clamp rack. What I can end up doing is mounting the rack extremely high because I just have to grab the bottom of the clamp to take it in and out of the rack, which leaves all this valuable real estate down here on the wall open for other uses. And yes, you may have noticed all the junk in the corner. I'm gonna take care of that. That's my failed attempt at one form of organization that worked in my previous shop that just isn't panning out in this one. So we'll clear that all out, make room for our new rack. The design I've come up with is pretty straightforward and easy to build for just about any skill level. And perhaps more importantly, they're easy to modify to perfectly fit your needs. In the world of shop furniture, a clamp rack is pretty basic. There's only really a couple ways you could do it. My specific design allows for stacking of the clamps, which makes for the use or efficiency of the wall space even better. Okay, what do you say we start building? Carrying full sheets of plywood is so much easier with this panel carrier from Kreg. Best 20 bucks I ever spent. I'm also gonna be building this project with just a couple of simple tools, like the Kreg Track Saw, pocket hole jig, and some drills. If you do plan on using something like a track saw or maybe a circular saw with a guide, I'd really recommend grabbing some of this rigid foam to put underneath. Your blade can cut right through it, it's easy to move around, and provides support across the whole workpiece. And we'll start by breaking down the plywood. For this design, you only need really about a half a sheet of 3/4 inch plywood, but the beauty of most shop projects like this is that you can typically make them from scraps laying around. So you may not even need to go out and buy plywood altogether. Just use the cut sheet to compare to maybe some of the offcuts you have. Okay, so maybe I lied a little bit about using only basic tools. I'm gonna use my Kreg ACS to make all of the angled cuts. You can easily do this with a track saw as well. They're just frankly easier on the ACS. All right, we've got everything cut out. Now it's time for assembly. And for that, I'm gonna use a combination of pocket hole screws, regular screws, brad nails, and wood glue. Yeah, we'll just do all of it. A quick sanding of all the parts before assembly makes your life a lot easier later. I'm gonna use this little quick flip tool to counterbore and drill the holes to mount these end shelf pieces on the side panels. And now, busting out one of my favorite tools, the 720 Pro pocket hole jig, we're gonna add some pocket holes to all of the shelf pieces, which we're gonna use to then mount to the back panel. This build is actually made a lot easier by using spacers to reference from. These are included in the plans if you want to use them. And once you've got one set, you just kind of move down, rinse and repeat as you go. I did also drive some brad nails in from the back into the angled supports. But one thing I wanted to point out is that when you're doing anything like this, any kind of shop organization project, don't build for what you have at the moment, plan for a little bit more in the future. So I know at some point I'm gonna get some more clamps. So if I was building this to exactly fit whatever clamps I had, I'd have nowhere to put the new ones. So just keep that in mind anytime you're doing any kind of shop organization. Just saves you some trouble down the road. Now, I chose to keep my back panel long during my build so that I can make sure my spacing was correct. So I then had to trim it to size. But don't worry, the plans are correct, so you won't have to do this step. And now all that's left is to mount it. I'm attaching a cleat into the wall directly into 2 studs. One thing that I really like and appreciate about this project is that I'm able to use a part of the garage that frankly would have gone to waste. I am actually pretty stoked to get all of my clamps up off the floor. If you remember what it looked like before, I had to kind of dig them out under piles of garbage around my shop, and now they're all in one spot, which is perfect. If I need to do a glue up or something, I know exactly where to go. Now, I'm about 6 feet tall, and my garage happens to have 10-foot ceilings, so it is mounted way up there. But you can see that I can still easily access the clamps because they hang down so low. The shortest clamp, in fact, isn't much of a reach at all. And the important piece of this is that I'm preserving all of the wall space down here in case I want to do something there in the future. Now, like I mentioned, this is pretty easy to customize. If you have a different clamp setup than I do, adjust it to fit your needs. And that is going to do it for this project. I hope you enjoyed it. Be sure to check out those free plans linked below or head to kregtool.com for a bunch of different free plans. Be sure to also browse our website for all the tools, especially the ones I use during this build. Some of my personal favorites are the ACS, the Track Saw, and the 720 Pro pocket hole jig. Big thanks to Kreg Tool for allowing me to crash their channel today and for always supporting guys and girls like me who just want to make stuff with our hands. Get out there, get your hands dirty, and build something. I will see you on the next project.